Hello Virgo friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, Virgo October 2020 Astrology Must Knows. To understand the energy of this month, which is going to be super intense, maybe one of the most intense months of the whole year, think back to June and July when we had some similar circumstances. I'm going to layer in all of the factors that are going to most affect you, and we'll talk about some of the things that you might see from the energies. So, we've got Mercury going retrograde in Scorpio. Mercury going retrograde in a water sign always brings a lot of emotion. Now, fortunately for Virgo placements, anything in a water sign is moving in a nice angle for you. So the odds are increased that the emotion will be better supported or can have more happy notes because of that nice angle. So in the summer, or the winter for you all down under, in June and July, we had Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Okay, so that's the first similar kind of thing. So there's this extended period of time where Mercury, that rules communication, expression from you and other people, in this very watery, emotional, internal type of zone. Then we also had eclipses in June and July, which brought radical changes for many people. August and September, we sort of had a dying down of the energies of eclipse time, but now we're ramping back up again. And this is another similarity we have in the month of October compared to June and July. The eclipses don't come until November and December. But if you've been watching my work for a while, or if you know about eclipses, they're not astronomical events only, which happen on one day. In the astrological perspective, they happen in a long stretch of a storyline. So we started a new eclipse storyline in the middle of 2020 with the Sagittarius and Gemini eclipses. We had the Capricorn Cancer eclipse cycle that had gone for 2 years, since the middle of 2018 to the middle of 2020, end off in a big, possibly emotional, in some ways very final way. And then this new storyline started. And then it sort of went into the backdrop. And now in October, 4 to 6 weeks before the first eclipse, which is at the end of November, things start rumbling again. So things coming back into the forefront, more pieces of information moving you along a continuum. October, November, and December are going to be very powerful months in the history of humanity, but also drill down to the individual level. But October will probably be one of the most emotional of those months. And we'll continue to talk about the layers that are at play here. We've got, let's see. So the eclipses tend to bring radical, non-negotiable changes. And some of those changes are challenging and not welcome. And some of those changes are very welcome, are things that you've been working towards, are something that you've been trying for, and the eclipses actually gel them into place. Although sometimes at eclipse time, we go on a different trajectory than we had planned. And sometimes that's immediately noticeably better. And sometimes we see the wisdom of the universe over time with the blessings that come from the changes, even if we didn't seem to want them at first. But October is this time of a lot of uncertainty. With Mercury retrograde and also Mars is in retrograde, there's a lot of uncertainty cast on this time. And we can kind of just look forward and think about this a little bit, knowing that the United States elections are going to be brewing very strongly in October, and then of course happening in November. Just the nature of that energy, you can see how some of the ways this is going to manifest in the world. So there's going to be a lot of uncertainty and a lot of things that seemed solid cast into uncertainty. So a must know for this month is do your best to not make plans that are not flexible. Basically, the more flexible you leave this month, the more open, the more without, major projects or commitments or schedules, extra things, the more you'll be glad that you did it that way, because retrogrades and eclipse energies tend to bring things up suddenly. And you might have a sudden opportunity that you would want to take advantage of, but if you were all scheduled out, you couldn't. So things are going to change, and the more you know that going into it, the easier time you can have. Plus, a lot of emotions are going to come up in emotional situations, for better and worse. So you'll want to be present to handle those things that come up either for yourself or for other people that you are around. Another layer of what makes this month so emotional is that there are 2 full moons. So you know, with one full moon, any full moon, there's a building up period in the days before and after. There's this kind of shaking loose. I always liken it to a dog shaking off after a bath. You know, it's like this grand emotional, of course, the water representing emotion, shake off. And that's going to be happening at the very beginning of the month, October 1st, and at the very end of the month, October 31st. Now, for all Virgo placements, you'll expect to see major relationship things coming to culmination, because for all of you, those moons are going to influence the relationship sectors. Now, for the early degree placement, so basically like August born, there's some additional place that you'll see that second moon, which I'll get back to in a minute. But when we see a full moon, and the second one on October 31st is actually a blue moon, because the second full moon in a sign or in a calendar month is a blue moon. And you know the saying, once in a blue moon. So October 31st is going to be a very magical, mystical, intense time. There's so much lore and myth and mysticism associated with full moons, and especially with blue moons, and especially this blue moon is going to be on Halloween, All Hallows Eve, you know, Samhain, whatever you celebrate. That's already a magical time where the veils are known to be thin between worlds. So for better and worse, there are going to likely be some pretty notable occurrences. And Uranus is involved with that moon because it's conjunct the moon. So jolts, unwelcome surprises and jolts, major breakthroughs that are exciting, anything involving that unpredictable Uranus placement is going to factor in here. And that's going to feature in this energy of relationships so the earlier one in the month, the October 1st one, all Virgos will have relationship focus there. The second one on the 31st, the September born Virgos are going to have that in the relationship sector. And the August born, you're going to have that in the sector of long distance travel, editing, writing, publishing, teaching, learning, education programs, international business. Okay, so something coming to culmination, fruition, something you've been working towards, or something that is coming to light that was hidden. But again, all of these could be for better or worse. Okay, so let's see what else. So this month, Libra and Scorpio planets are going to be bringing all of this relationship energy for the whole zodiac. But this is especially true for Virgo because this energy with the moons is bringing that relationship energy to the houses of relationship. And then we have the signs of Libra and Scorpio bringing the energy to relationships. So, you know, notable occurrences, meeting somebody important, somebody coming back into your life that's important, finding someone to help you, you helping someone, things with loans or inheritances or anything having to do with money or shared resources. The money sector is also going to show up really strongly for Virgos because the second house of money is highlighted this month for you. So anything involving your individual self-sufficiency and your income and your spending and your material items or environmental projects may also come into focus at this time. Okay, let's see what else. So something else that is very fabulous that is going on is that Venus is going to move through your sign. And Venus is the energy of my grandma Marge, my Italian grandma who give me a meatball and kiss me on the face and tell me how wonderful I am and slip me some money, because Venus rules love, beauty, money, self-esteem. And so my grandma Marge epitomizes all of this energy. And this is the type of energy that's going to kiss all of your placements this month, because Venus is going to glide through Virgo all this month. So every Virgo placement is going to get a kiss at this time. And even more kisses, because Venus is going to make a trine, which is the most magnificent of all astrological placements, with the outer planets. Okay, outer planets are the ones that move very slowly, and they've been moving through Earth signs. At least 4 of them have. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto have been moving through Capricorn, which has been making trines to your Virgo placements, which could have been locking long-term things in place, especially for you over the last couple of years. And then Uranus is in Taurus. So Venus is going to come and trine all of these placements. And that's going to lock in to your placements. So some major long-term gains in any area, things involving children, things involving creative projects, things involving your health, things involving even this long-distance travel stuff and editing and teaching and learning, education programs, anything like that. And again, relationship stuff. So there's so much going on, but this particular aspect is just something very positive amidst a little bit of this mischief that we've got layered in here. Okay, so know that plans that you make in October are likely to change. If you have to make plans, make sure they're flexible. Schedule yourself light. Also know that Mars is in retrograde very heavily. We're in the heat of the Mars retrograde. Mars is retrograde from September 9th through November 14th. The shadow period that built up to it started at the end of July, built up in August, and then extends out through the rest of 2020 after November 14th. So that may interfere with momentum in some ways. So the way to handle this is anything that you're trying to force, don't force. If you're getting pushback or resistance, then pull back, because one of the major must-knows for Mars retrograde is don't force anything. Assertion or attack or anything that you place out in a forceful way will tend to boomerang back at you in a way that's not pleasant. So you can stop in its tracks the keynote of Mars retrograde, which can be frustration, if you don't push on the projects that don't seem to be moving, and you allow the things that want to gel in place to just magically gel in place. And you might see a lot of things gelling in place, people coming from the past, locking something in for you, an idea or a project from the past getting solidified, something like that. In many ways, Mars retrograde can bring this energy of coasting, kind of like a riding a wave back to shore. You just have to catch the wave and notice it by the signs around you and stay in that zone where things are flowing. That's really for the whole rest of the year. Okay, so the month of October is very much an encapsulation, an intensification of what the energy of 2020 has been. 2020, and if you haven't watched my video called How Astrology Explains the Coronavirus and the Systems Breaking Down, then you might really want to watch that. It could be very life-changing. It's quite informative. But I'll give you just a little tidbit here. As Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn have been moving through the sign of Capricorn, it's uncommon that outer planets are all in the same sign like this and crossing over each other at the same degrees. And this is, a pinnacle point in history. Capricorn energy rules systems. It rules the old traditional way things have been done. And you can see that those things have been very heavily tested this year. And you can see the verge of new systems starting to come in. And that's as Saturn has been dancing in Aquarius and then went back into the later degrees of Capricorn. We're teeter-tottering upon tradition and old systems along dancing with these new systems. And so what's going to happen in December is Jupiter and Saturn are going to move into this new energy of Aquarius and be there for good. Saturn will be there for years, Jupiter will be there for a year, and they will leave this restrictive energy of Capricorn. Jupiter will leave it for 12 years, Saturn will leave it for 30 years. So this is, a major piece that's happening for humanity at this time. And October is like the last, I'm calling it like a quivering egg that's about to hatch. It's this last quivering point of that point of tension before we break into the new energy. So our job this year, we've got a couple of jobs, and October is going to kind of like bring this to culmination. One is to look in our individual lives, our communities, our countries, our global interactions, and see the places where the systems we have in place have actually been working. use those as models for the new systems, take them with us, and throw everything else out. Okay, so find the pieces that are going to be the anchors that anchor us while we have everything come new with the innovation and new solutions and new ways of doing things with Aquarius. Aquarius energy can be quite weird. It can be quite strange, and it can be quite surprising and revolutionary. So that energy is coming. It's been dancing around, and it will start to firm up as we get to, into next year. And this will really lock in a big way in December. So this restriction that has been this year that feels like the new way of life, it's not going to be as restricted. This pieces of it are the new norm. But as the planets move out of Capricorn, that extra restriction is going to mold into new ways of doing things, new systems that aren't quite as restrictive. And it's very exciting in a lot of ways because Aquarian energy is revolutionary. And in the past, people that we think of as revolutionaries, they're pretty erratic and wild and reckless and, visionary, but not necessarily stable. But our second job this year is finding in ourselves and helping to implement in our communities and in the world what I'm calling the rise of the stable revolutionary. Okay, because this is the energy of Saturn, which is like the energy of Capricorn, okay, because Saturn rules Capricorn. So the energy of Capricorn is coming to meet the energy of Aquarius. And it's very stable and it's very grounded and it has an eye to the past. But then Aquarius always has this eye to the future. It's unpredictable. So the combination of these two are going to bring this very grounded approach to innovation that can be quite magnificent. It's pretty exciting. And we're on the verge of this, okay? And October is that emotional month of what I call transition, okay? We've been in a transition this whole year, and we know what the definition of transition is, but for the purposes of illustrating this year and this month, I'm looking to the technical definition of transition, like in the birthing community. Transition in the birthing community is when a woman's cervix is dilated enough that the baby can come out, and she's at that point where she feels like she can't do it, right? Okay, so birthers, people who are experienced birthers or people who are in the birthing world know that when a woman starts saying, I can't do this, there's no possible way, it's never going to happen, the baby's never coming out. That's the energy of October. That's the energy of transition. And what happens with that is exasperation, hopelessness, helplessness, it's never going to happen, it's impossible, and then it breaks. The energy breaks and the baby's born. And that's what we're going through in October, November, and December is this transition. So if you feel those things and it feels that way to you, just remember that I told you about this beforehand, because if you know about it beforehand, when it's happening, it's not as scary because first of all, it's temporary. Second of all, you're about to crack through into something majorly revolutionary. And this is going to happen regardless of what we do. This is the course of things. But we can facilitate making this more graceful and making this more productive in our own lives by doing things like inner work and working on a major topic that's going to come up this month, which is fear. Okay, so this energy of Libra, which the sun is, moving through Libra for most of this month, and all of the signs associate with body parts, and Libra rules the kidneys. And as I've been talking about with Mars retrograde, Mars, rules the energy of anger and resentment, and that energy is housed in the liver and the gallbladder. So we're seeing this ongoing thing with the gallbladder and the liver for the whole second half of 2020 with this Mars retrograde and anger and resentment coming up and issues with those organs, clearing them out. Now with this Libra energy and all of these other emotional things that I've been layering in for you here, this has to do with fear. Okay, so there's a fear circuit in the body that starts with the adrenals. The adrenals are the fight, flight, or freeze. The adrenals are over here by the kidneys. Okay, so the adrenals down to the kidneys, then at the bottom of the kidneys, there's a muscle called the psoas that attaches the spine, and it comes through the sacrum and it hooks into the hip here at the top of the femur. And this psoas muscle, and then also the piriformis muscle, and then it goes down the legs, and the knees are this big fear factor, and then out through the feet. So if the fear circuit's working right, we feel the fear, it goes down the circuit and it's released. But what tends to happen is that the psoas muscle and the piriformis muscle get really tight. We sit a lot, and that's the hip flexor motion, which the psoas muscle does. People have very tight hip flexors. So things get, and also the piriformis muscle is a hip rotator. And that is responsible a lot of times for sciatica. When the piriformis is too tight or is inflamed, it causes the sciatica, which is another fear response, okay? So by loosening and releasing the piriformis and the psoas muscles, you can actually let the fear channel be fluid instead of paralyzed with fear. So you can really help yourself by keeping those muscles released. Now, if you have brittle bones or a hip replacement or something else that goes on in those areas, you may have to work with a practitioner to do this safely. But everyone else, you can look up these muscles. Psoas is P-S-O-A-S, piriformis is P-I-R-I-F-O-R-M-I-S. And look for how you stretch these. And it's gonna hurt like hell, and you're gonna hate me for like even suggesting this. You're gonna be like, ah, but you'll see how it needs to be done. And if you can keep these flexible, you will have less fear, because the fear will run through you instead of getting stuck in those areas. The second thing that you can do as far as the inner work and managing the energies that are coming up is EFT, the emotional freedom technique. I talk about this all the time, but if you've been hearing me talk about it and you haven't looked it up and done it, this might be the time to do that, because it's scientifically proven to lower anxiety, to work with fear, to clear limiting beliefs, to even work with phobias and all kinds of different things. So you have this opportunity with the energies that are highlighted now to go to deeper levels of trust and faith in the flow and this new more open time, or we'll call it a reserved openness. So basically like a managed openness. That's kind of the energy that we're moving into, is where things start to open up in this Aquarius way, but with this managed Saturn way. But then Jupiter is going to go in there and start expanding all of these possibilities. Jupiter is much happier in Aquarius than it is in Capricorn, because it's in a sign that matches the energy of fire, which is, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So that's what's coming. This is the pinnacle of the time. And those are the things that are most on my mind. So I do have more information for you about this month. If you want to know all of the salty transits, and there are double the salty transits than there are the sweet ones again, so there's chance for major alchemy this month with that. If you want to know all the salty aspects, all the sweet aspects, what dates they are, what you can expect from them, a write-up of the general energy of the month delivered into your inbox 1 month early, you can sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. I only send out 3 emails a month, and they're all information based with resources that I've created to help you with whatever the transits are that are occurring at that time. If you want written horoscopes by me that are much more simple and streamlined than my very detailed videos, you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com, and you can see all these links. I have most of my resources that I create are free, and you can see them linked underneath this video. If you click on the More button with the arrow, it will reveal all these links that I'm telling you about. So at cozybysweetstarlight.com, you can also see astrology kissed blogs like yoga for the different signs, herbal teas for the different signs, how to maximize the sun moving through the different signs, and just overall healthy lifestyle and conscious living. It's a beautiful site. You will love it. If you want to take free classes, I have free classes at my school, Luminous Life Multiversity. You can go to lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. I have a free course that used to be a paid course called Unleash Your Money Magnet. While you're there, you can also see my paid courses, including Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you think I go into a lot of details in the videos, you'll definitely be blown away by the magnitude of the comprehensive nature of that course. So if you want to just dive in for your own purposes to help you and your friends, or if you want to do astrology as a professional, I'll equip you with everything you need in that course. You can see it at lumelife.com. getting very excited because my new book, Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe, is coming out, and you can pre-order it now. So you can just search for Planetology, Annie Botticelli. It will be available through all major booksellers, online, wherever you can find it. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.